behind the scenes at SKOR North and 1500 ESPN have sports opinions, so they want you to hear them. It's the perfect digital sports soapbox to scratch that Minnesota sports itch. This is the SKOR North Taxi Squad.
By the time his new contract is up, will Justin Jefferson be the greatest wide receiver in Minnesota Vikings history? And with that, we welcome you into the SKOR North Taxi Squad, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Jason Stormer, and I'm joined alongside Artis Woods. OJ Jettus, your straight cash is ready, homie. After weeks, months, and heck, even years of wondering when, not if, when, Justin Jefferson would sign the most lucrative non-quarterback deal in NFL history, the team, his representation, and JJ himself landed the negotiation plane, and now he has his own personal hangar at MSP Airport for at least the next 5 years. Well, I don't know if that's necessarily true, but I like to believe it's true. The terms of the deal are 4 years, $140 million with $110 guaranteed. Artis, I don't know about you, man, but I definitely hit a couple gritties after hearing the news that Justin Jefferson is going to be here long term. How many gritties did you hit? And ultimately, what's your reaction to the news that JJ is going to be in town for several years to come?
Somewhere around 140, you say? 140?
Very nice.
Man, nice. Shout out to Jettus. Shout out to Jettus, man. Shout out to the Vikings. Shout out to Quasi for making sure this deal got done. There was a lot of speculation, man. A lot of rumors. You know, I'm sure some were a little true, you know. But what I loved most is that for the most part, they were shot down. Most of them were shot down so quick, and it was just made clear by the Vikings front office and that by reporters that were really connected to the situation that the Vikings had no intention whatsoever on moving on from Jettus. Like, no, like, we're not doing it. Like, we don't, yeah, this team's in the mix. This team might do it. This team, Vikings like, bro, we're getting this deal done. Like, I don't know what y'all think this is, but this deal is getting done. So, shout out to him. He's the best in the game, man. He's simply the best in the game. You know, there's a lot of receivers that can be thrown in that conversation, especially after last season. You know, Jettus did get hurt last year. So there's a lot of receivers being thrown in that conversation. But when he's healthy, which is most of the time, he only spent this past year hurt. When he's healthy, he is easily the best in the game. You know, so shout out to him. I'm glad he got this deal done. I'm glad he's still in Minnesota. Now you have him with Addison for years to come to help out with JJ McCarthy. You know, that development is going to be big time. Having those receivers, having Hockenson whenever he's healthy enough to play. You have Aaron Jones in the backfield. You have an offense that's ready to take off, man. You have an offense that is ready to take off.
It's incredibly exciting. Yeah, there was a lot of speculation potentially of what could happen to JJ. Some of it unfounded, some of it maybe. I mean, as Phil once told me famously, you know, there's always truth to some rumors. So I'm not going to sit here and pretend that like people were making phone calls to the Vikings, maybe even like they were listening to some of those phone calls. I know that Adam Schefter did report that the Colts, the Jets, and the Niners were some of the teams that called in the most about Justin Jefferson. Obviously, those are fairly wide receiver needy teams, maybe not necessarily the Niners, but they've had some kind of contract issues with their receivers and Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk, so I guess that makes sense. Obviously, you'd want to pair Anthony Richardson with a wide receiver like Justin Jefferson, so I understand the Colts appeal, and the Jets are trying to, you know, get the last legs out of Aaron Rodgers pretty much, so you want to surround him with talent, and him with Garrett Wilson would have been absolutely stunning to see.
Dynamic,
man. But guess what? We don't have to entertain any of those possibilities, at least for until like 5 years down the road when Justin Jefferson is a free agent, because the deal is done. And the most encouraging thing about all this for me, Artis, is that it was just easy. There was not really any drama surrounding any of this. And considering the Vikings' history dealing with dramatic wide receivers, i.e. Randy Moss and Stephon Diggs, I think a lot of Vikings fans may have some scar tissue going into this, thinking like, all right, is there something that could potentially fall through? Is there something that could happen that could make JJ disgruntled? But thankfully, that never happened. And I think it's a testament to just Justin Jefferson as the person. I think he just kind of sat back throughout this whole process, let his representation and the team kind of hash this thing out. And frankly, I just think I mean, JJ said this several times, right, man? He just wants to focus on football. He wants to focus on being the best. And I think he understands that the money and the deals and all these kind of things will come. And in his case, in the biggest way possible for a non-quarterback. And I think he just ultimately lets, the big shots, the lawyers, all these guys just kind of do all the talking in terms of this contract negotiation. No drama like unfollowing the team off of Twitter. I hate that players do that nowadays. It is so petty. It is so childish, but I get that it's kind of a negotiation tactic that these players do. And I'm pretty sure Stephon Diggs unfollowed the Bills. I'm pretty sure before he got traded to the Texans. So
it's a way nowadays in the era of social media. It's the way they send a message, I guess. Like, hey, I'm gone. Like, pay me or I'm gone. Like, that's the first sign. Oh, he unfollowed us, I guess. I mean, hey, I guess new generation, man. What can you say? Right?
Right. And I think that's ultimately on us, the fans, for kind of enabling that kind of thing. Because the second that does happen, people take notice of it. I swear there are some sports rubes like you and me that literally just monitor Twitter and Instagram accounts for this exact reason. If they start hearing any type of contract issues coming up with a player, I think there's actual people that monitor stuff 24/7 in case this kind of thing happens. But again, no issues whatsoever with Justin Jefferson in this entire thing. He is our guy for the next several years. I can't even imagine what J.J. McCarthy is feeling after all this, Artis. I mean, you hit a ton of gritties. I hit a ton of gritties. I imagine he hit even more gritties because there is literally no more important piece that you could possibly have as a potential franchise quarterback than someone like Justin Jefferson. And we could even make the argument that J.J. McCarthy might have the best situation for any rookie quarterback in the entire league. Maybe the Chicago Bears rival that a little bit with the wide receivers that they brought in and the running backs they brought in. And Caleb Williams, might just be a pretty dang good quarterback anyway. I mean, he was drafted number 1 overall. But otherwise, I mean, J.J. McCarthy has to look at the situation now, knowing that J.J. is locked in pretty much to the exact degree that his own rookie scale contract is locked in. You got TJ Hawkinson locked in for several years to come. Jordan Addison still on that rookie contract. Man, if I'm JJ McCarthy, I am just grinning ear to ear. I was grinning ear to ear when I got drafted by the Minnesota Vikings. But again, going into that, you didn't know for sure what was going to happen with Justin Jefferson. But now it is confirmed. JJ to JJ. Print the t-shirts. Get them at SKORNorth.com. It is happening for several years to come. And this is just the best possible future outlook that the Vikings could have right now.
Again, man, shout out to Quasi, bro. I really like the moves he has made, man. I really like what he's done with this team. Like, legit, you brought in Hawkinson. You was able to re-sign Justin Jefferson. I thought the draft the last 2 years was solid. Bringing in Addison. I know the whole draft might not have panned out the way you wanted it to, at least not yet. But you brought in Addison. Addison is a dog. You just got McCarthy, right? You got Dallas Turner. I think he's going to be a really good player for years to come. So I think he's making all of the right moves, man. I'm thinking about the division right now. I think the Vikings can win this division. I think they will win this division. Ooh. I expect the Packers to take a bit of a step back. I think Jordan Love is in for a little sophomore slump. Just my personal opinion. No statistics or numbers that say that. Just my gut tells me they're in for a bit of a sophomore slump. Honestly, I can see it. The Chicago Bears, who knows? Because, Caleb Williams is number 1 overall pick. He's got some weapons. Who knows? I still like the Vikings offensive situation better than the Bears, in all honesty, when you think about the entire offense. In Detroit, they went to the playoffs. They got to NFC Championship, right? They did their thing. But it's Detroit. It's Detroit. I still, now again, respect. They got a good team. Dan Campbell, sometimes he be blowing games. In my opinion, he blew the NFC Championship game. But again, he's still a great coach. They have a solid team. I'm just saying, man, I got to see a team like Detroit do it twice for me to be like, all right, they really are a team that this Minnesota Vikings team couldn't take now. So I think they're going to win the division. How you feel about that?
Man, I'm with you, man. I mean, I agree with you that all these teams are maybe going to take a step back, except maybe the Bears. The Bears could take a leap this season. That really just depends on how many growing pains Caleb Williams is going to go through, which I think he will go through a little bit. Honestly, I kind of compare Caleb Williams to Trevor Lawrence in a way. Now, Trevor Lawrence is a respectable quarterback and probably the best quarterback in Jacksonville Jaguars history already up to this point. But I felt like there was a ton of hype coming into the draft for Lawrence. Obviously, he was the number 1 overall pick, a national champion back at Clemson. But just so far, for whatever reason, I think there's just been a little bit left to be desired for Trevor so far in the league. And maybe that's just more a testament to maybe the Jaguars just haven't surrounded him with enough pieces yet. I don't really know. But I'm getting just mad Trevor Lawrence vibes out of Caleb Williams right now. And I'm with you right now. There is no statistical evaluations that this opinion is based off whatsoever. It is just a gut feeling that obviously the lights are going to be really shining bright on this young man right away. And Chicago's a tough market to play in anyway, especially when you are a quarterback for that football team. Cue the smoking J memes, you know what I mean? And so I think it's going to get to him a little bit, and it might cause the Bears overall to have some growing pains and maybe ultimately have a disappointing season than what people think that they're going to have. But yes, maybe a sophomore slump for Jordan Love. I would love that, even though, I mean, he's not technically a sophomore. It's like his 5th season technically, but still, as a starting quarterback, a sophomore nonetheless. And yeah, the Lions will step back a little bit. I don't think they'll get back to the NFC Championship game, but they'll still be a heavy contender. Look, man,
I think they'll be competitive at least. I think they'll be competitive, but like as far as like winning the division and like you say, getting to an NFC Championship, and they got to show me again. Hey, they just do.
Here's what I'll say though: if we get the CJ Stroud version of JJ McCarthy, then your opinion is absolutely valid. If the best case scenario does play out for the Minnesota Vikings and this guy is truly NFL ready right away, just like CJ was, then yeah, we'll be right there at the top of the division once again. It might not mean a division title, but we'll probably be a playoff team if we kind of mimic the success that Houston had last season. And considering where Houston had to come from, I mean, those were some dastardly bad teams. Houston was the laughingstock of the NFL for a couple years there, but you get that quarterback and quickly the opinions and the viewership of your team changes instantly. And now you're bringing in guys like Stephon Diggs. And I don't think a lot of Texans fans thought that was going to happen just even 2 seasons ago. So yeah, you get that version of JJ McCarthy. And guess what? You're not going to get that version of JJ McCarthy unless you have Justin Jefferson signed long-term with the team. And so all the pieces, as Brett Favre once said, are in place right now for the success of this team to launch after a pretty semi-disappointing 2023 season, although I think we can chop that up mostly to the injury of Kirk Cousins, because frankly, the Vikings probably were going to be a playoff team after last season. Sure, they started out really bad with that 0-3 start, but it looked like it was bouncing back and Kirk was playing well. But yeah, sorry, long answer to your question.
I was about to say, they still had a chance to win the division, in my opinion. They had a shot. I mean, they could have beaten the Lions with a healthy Kirk Cousins. We saw it was close games without Kirk, and even without Judd at times, against some of the teams in the division. So yeah, no, bro. Yeah, that's why I'm saying, like, I'm just not sold on the division, man. It was there. It was right there. You know what I mean? The Packers slid in the playoffs at the last minute, won a playoff game. I mean, they played Dallas, so I mean, I guess that kind of happens when you see Dallas in the playoffs. It's like, okay, we got a shot. We got a shot. But anyway, keep going, Jason. My bad. Go ahead, Clay.
No, I don't really got much to add than that. But yeah, I didn't see the NFC North, besides the Bears, really improve drastically enough where, if the Vikings put together a good season, maybe even a 10, 11 win season, that might actually be enough to win the NFC North this year. Now, I mean, there's other teams in the conference that you may have to worry about. Obviously, the Niners are probably going to be good again. I would expect your Eagles to bounce back a little bit as well. So in terms of supremacy in the NFC, I don't know exactly what the Vikings ceiling is for that. But yes, I'm with you. The division can be had. It can be had if JJ McCarthy plays like CJ Stroud, or I guess if Sam Darnold just wants to, take his career to a whole nother level. Because again, I will give Sam Darnold permission to start as many games as he possibly wants. He just has to play well. Or, obviously JJ McCarthy can play well during camps and everything and practices. That could force the hand as well. So either way, future is just looking extremely bright for JJ McCarthy and the Minnesota Vikings with this Justin Jefferson deal. But I did pose at the beginning of the show, Artis, could JJ, by the end of his new contract here, end up being the greatest wide receiver in Minnesota Vikings history? Now, I think it's fair to say that mantle currently belongs to the great Randy Moss, who came into the 1998 season, took the team by storm. That was a fantastic team. It should have gone to the Super Bowl. Let's be real. Gary Anderson, what are you doing, man? What are you doing? I'm sorry. It's been several years. We just got to get over it at this point. But he took over not only Minnesota by storm, Artis. Randy Moss took over the entire league. I mean, offenses changed the way they played because of Randy Moss. But if we actually compare the stats and the accolades that Justin Jefferson has already received up to this point in his career, both of at this point he's played 4 seasons. If we compare the first 4 seasons of both of these guys, the stats are fairly comparable. Now, they played about the same amount of games, but Justin Jefferson actually has 392 receptions to Randy Moss's 308. He also has 5,899 receiving yards compared to Randy Moss's 5,396. Now, this is where the biggest discrepancy lies. JJ only has 30 receiving touchdowns up to this point in his 4 years in his career. Randy Moss up in 4 years by this point already had 53, which is just absolutely insane. But nobody could stop Randy Moss. You just literally threw the ball up, nice little lob, and he would just come down and catch it. There was no cornerback, safety, linebacker. Nobody could take down Randy Moss. Randy also returned a few punts occasionally. I totally forgot that Randy actually was a punt returner in some capacities. I don't think that was something they did a ton, but I mean, he was such a dynamic player. Why not give it a shot? And if we look at Pro Bowls, all pros, JJ has 3 Pro Bowls already. Randy already had 3 up to this point. JJ, though, this is interesting, 3 all pros already in 4 seasons. Randy only had 2 all pros in 4 seasons. So, I mean, if we look at the stats, Artis, there's some bearing to this argument. But again, Randy Moss is arguably the second best wide receiver in all of football, in some opinions, mine and probably even yours. So I don't know. Do you think there's some merit to this argument, or do we need to see a whole lot more from Mr. Justin Jefferson before we can put him on the mantle of who is right now the Minnesota Vikings wide receiver GOAT?
Jason, I'm sorry. I'm slightly distracted. Dude, I need a haircut so bad. This is terrible. I'm trying to get it together. It's like poking out of it. Like, oh my gosh. Anyway, okay, but back to the question. I was like trying to do it on the slide.
Look at this. This
man,
is just an absolute disaster.
I was trying to correct it on the slide, but it got so bad for a moment. I was like, I'm just gonna have to say something because I have to fix this, bro. Anyway, all right. That's a little
You look good.
Look good. Thank you. To answer the question, to get to the question. Jason, man, yes. I have too much respect for 84 don't stretch on game day. Mm-hmm. Too much respect, man. He's my favorite receiver of all time. In my opinion, he's the greatest receiver of all time. So not only is he my favorite, I believe he's legit the greatest of all time. Now, some of that is due to the Patriots days as well, right? So I can't just say that's all because of the Vikings, because I don't have that same opinion if his whole career is just the Viking stint, right? But I need to see a little bit more. Does Justin Jefferson have the potential to pass Randy Moss? Of course. Nobody's gonna deny that. You can't deny that with how he's played so far in his career. So he has a shot. No questions asked. He has a shot. But I just need to see, what did Randy play for the Vikings for, about 6 years?
Something like 6 or 7 before I trade him to Oakland.
I need to see at least another 1 or 2 years of just greatness. Just 1 or 2 more. I need to see it just for a little longer for me to say he's passed Randy Moss as the greatest Vikings receiver of all time. It's hard for me, man. Like I said, I got too much respect for Randy, bro. And maybe it's nostalgia. Maybe it's that, because like you said, the numbers are the numbers, right? Judd passes him in a bunch of the numbers. The touchdowns are one thing. I mean, we understand Randy Moss was just one hell of a deep threat at the end of the day. Like, that's where most of the touchdowns came from. I think Justin Jefferson is a red zone threat. I don't know if he's the same threat that Randy was, though. So I think that's probably the biggest difference in why the touchdown, difference is what it is. But outside of that, I mean, I don't know, man. It's kind of like almost like the Julio Jones, where people rank Julio Jones in certain conversations because he didn't score a ton of touchdowns, but he got a ton of yards. So similar conversation, just a matter of what you value more. But again, to answer the question directly, I think that I need at least 1 or 2 more years of dominance before I can say he's better than 84 don't stretch on game day, man. That's tough. That's tough, man. That's tough. It's hard, but he's right there. And I thought at one point, bro, when the Vikings first, let Stephon Diggs go, I was like, I worked at US Bank Stadium when I first moved out here, and I had a lot of fans, or there were a lot of fans that came into the team store that I worked at, and it was like, yo, Justin Jefferson, like, he's gonna come in, he's gonna replace Diggs. My managers, my coworkers say, yeah, he's gonna replace Diggs. I'm like, oh, pump your brakes. Diggs was that dude. That's gonna be hard to replace. And dude, probably by like week 10, week 12, I was like, yo, this is the Diggs replacement. Like, this is like, my bad. Y'all was right. You know what I mean? Like, what can you say? So, that's why I can't say, he has no shot, because I didn't think he would be better than Stephon Diggs, especially this soon. So how could I say he doesn't have this crazy potential? He's already passed Randy, in yards, broken that record. So give me a little more time, Jason. Give me a little more time.
No, that's totally fair. Obviously, Randy Moss is a Hall of Fame career to put up with, and he had those great numbers throughout his Vikings career. Tailed off a little in 2004, but then he totally revitalized things with the Patriots and put himself on a whole nother level, setting records with Tom Brady. Artis, I mean, you are speaking directly to my childhood as a Vikings fan. We all had 84 jerseys. We all laughed our asses off when he mooned the crowd at Lambeau Field in 2004 and Joe Buck overreacted. That was the greatest thing ever. I was watching with some Packer family friends too, and they were all disgusted, and I thought it was just the most hysterical thing in the world. And I was like, get over it. He didn't even actually moon people. He just pretended. Get over it. I have so many definitive childhood memories with Randy Moss. And I wasn't even a big sports fan until my teenage years, but still, Randy Moss still transcended pretty much all of that. Even I couldn't help but, have an 84 jersey as a kid, and so many wonderful memories. And I never really thought there would be anybody that could come to this team and put up the same kind of stats, receive the same kind of awards, the same kind of accolades, and overall just capture the imagination of Vikings fans as a wide receiver. I didn't think that was possible. I didn't think anybody could match what Randy Moss did. Yet Justin Jefferson is absolutely doing that, and he's doing it in his own iconic way, beyond just, the numbers and the stuff that he does on the field. I mean, look at the pop culture phenomenon that he has created with the gritty itself. I mean, we got kids all across the country hitting the gritty, and I can't think of a more iconic dance move that has come from an NFL player since Cam hit the dab for the very first time. The dab for the first time. Mine was terrible just now for a second ago. But yeah, we see these kind of things happen with NFL superstars, and Justin Jefferson just exemplifies everything that the NFL is looking from their superstars in terms of a character guy, in terms of just a leader on the football field, and ultimately an awesome football player. So the phenomenon, I think, of Randy Moss was a bigger deal because that just kind of slapped us in the face and nobody saw that coming. I mean, that 1998 season was just electric and it was awesome, 15-1. And, JJ kind of came in just a little bit slowly. The team, remind me how good that 2020 team was. I honestly can't remember that far back how good I don't think we made the playoffs JJ's rookie year, because that was the year. Wasn't that the year after Kirk and the Vikings went down to the Superdome and beat the Saints? Rudy in the back of the end zone? I'm pretty sure that was. So the team didn't have nearly the same kind of success that Justin Jefferson in his first season had that they did with the first season of Randy Moss. So I am with you.
Different situation, though, like you said, different situations. I try, as far as receivers are concerned, I try not to think too deep into that. But that is important, though, because, if one of them did win a Super Bowl in their first 4 years and, had major impact on winning the Super Bowl, that completely changes everything, So I do get that. But, yeah, you can't put too much stock into that, you know what I mean? Just because, they, can I say they haven't won a bunch of playoff games because of Justin Jefferson? I can't say that. I can't say the same thing for Randy Moss. No, that's not the reason why they weren't able to capture a Super Bowl. So, but I get what you were saying, though.
Yeah, and Randy just, I'm sure the Vikings sold probably, I wonder if you can go back and see how many 84 jerseys they sold in Randy Moss's rookie year compared to 18 jerseys that they sold in Justin Jefferson's rookie season. Actually, it'd probably be more with JJ just because jersey sales are a little bit probably more prolific than they were back in the 90s. But I'm going to even extend a little bit further than you. You said maybe 1 to 2 more seasons of pure and utter dominance from JJ. I might have to bump that up to 3 or 4. I might have to see that throughout the rest of his current contract now for these next several seasons. Because, I agree with you also that Randy Moss is the second best wide receiver in all of football, probably behind Jerry Rice. And JJ just has to not only put up the numbers to achieve that, but also has to achieve the status the iconic status, the pop culture status that Randy Moss has been able to achieve and was able to achieve in his career and even after his career as well, maybe as a broadcaster and some other things. Because I know like Randy's reputation got kind of dragged through the mud at many points through his career, and I think he's just done a fantastic job to not only just becoming, just a shining bright and a good representation of the NFL, but also, I mean, it seems like he's mended things well with the Vikings too, and he comes back pretty often as well. And so, yeah, Again, I can't believe we're having this conversation because I did not think any Vikings wide receiver could ever do what Randy Moss could do. Yet here we are having this conversation. And frankly, Artis, I hope he does. I really hope he does. As much as I hold on to those childhood memories with Randy Moss, I would be ecstatic to see ultimately when it comes down to it that Justin Jefferson is heralded as the greatest wide receiver in Minnesota Vikings history. It's very, very possible, but he does have an absolute long way to go, right?
Yeah, man. He's got the swag. He's got the charisma too, so I feel like the people are going to love him. That impact can be right there with Randy. You know what I mean? He's got people doing, the gritty, and that's like league wide now. Like everybody, when that first started, he had everybody doing the gritty in the league. You know what I mean? So their potential is there. It's all there, especially for this generation of fans too. For Jettis, the potential is there in this era of social media and everything. It's all there. He just got to continue to be himself, stay healthy. Most importantly, stay on the field and continue to do what he's doing, man. But I think, again, having J.J. McCarthy, a guy that can move a little bit outside of the pocket, which will help, as far as extending plays, and having a guy like Jordan Addison on the opposite end, who I'm hearing is having a pretty good camp so far, that's going to be big, man. That's going to be big for years to come. So, like I said, I think the sky is the limit for Jettis. And I think the sky's the limit for that team, man. Like I said, you already kind of brought it up. The NFC is kind of top heavy, but hey, you was bringing up C.J. Stroud. If he could play like C.J. Stroud, hey, you never know. You never know.
Exactly. Got to tell you what, though. Every Minnesota Viking, no matter who you are, whether you are a starting quarterback or you're playing on special teams, you're the gunner, no problem. You're going to be looking good in those whiteout uniforms that the team rolled out today. Did you see those, Artis? First time, I think, maybe in franchise history. I don't know if this is a fact or not, but I'm pretty sure if I'm just thinking through my own brain, I don't think we've had anything other than a purple helmet before, and that white helmet is looking good. Nice little gray accents a little bit, too. I don't see a little bit of yellow in there, which, you know what, I'm kind of okay with just how it looks anyway. What was your reaction to seeing these new nice unis that the Vikings going to play in next year?
Some of the cleanest uniforms I've seen in a while. I love the all-white look. But to be fair, I like it on a lot of teams, to be real. I just like that all white, got the white shoes with the white pants and top, and then you got the team, whatever team color is in the middle. And like, it's just the white helmet. Mm-hmm. It's fire. Like I had no complaints. I'm like, that's swaggy. That's swaggy. If they could wear it every week, I'd sign up for it. I just think it's, but I understand though, break it out for special occasions, big games, national televised games. That's when you break out the all whites. That's the fit right there. That's the fit. That's the look good, feel good, play good, feel right there. That's what that is.
I would not recommend any Vikings player eating hot dogs while wearing those uniforms. You're going to spill ketchup and mustard on that thing, and you're not going to be able to get those stain outs. Maybe with some cold water and some ice cubes, get a Tide stick. I don't know what you got to do, but stay away from the condiments while you're wearing those jerseys, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, I'm sure those are going to be available at the team store. They're probably already available at the team stores. They're probably already available online. But how great was it, too, that Justin Jefferson was kind of leading, the photo op pretty much for all this? It's like he signed the contract, and then he hopped right into those jerseys and started taking photos and everything, and he just looks fresh and clean. We've seen the Vikings do this a couple times. They've done a couple whiteouts over the last couple seasons at US Bank Stadium, but now that we have like an official jersey for it, it's super cool. So yeah, break it out. Primetime games. I know we don't have a ton of primetime games this year. Fit them in when you can. Maybe some division rival games. I'm sure those will look nice and crisp against the Packers or the Bears if you want to play against them. But yeah, it's really fun for maybe the first time in franchise history just to have a new helmet, Artis. I mean, it's always been the purple with the horns, and we love that. It's an iconic NFL look, and it's still that. It's still the horns on the side, but just with the all white, the little bit of gray mixed in there too. It looks very slick. I don't know if that's something they're going to do like opening day, because I know that they had their other throwbacks that they wore with the Bud Grant patch that they did against the Buccaneers last season, but I'm okay with No, I know when we need to wear them. When Kirk Cousins and the Atlanta Falcons come back to town in December. That's when we need to wear these uniforms for the first time. The entire crowd will be wearing the white as well. I'm sure we'll put t-shirts or towels on the seats for everybody. Oh no, that will be a very intimidating environment for Kirk Cousins. And we know what happens when we put Kirk Cousins in intimidating environments. He kind of becomes a little bit of a loose cannon. So that's my diabolical plan with these white jerseys. Let's save them for Kirk Cousins and then unleash them in all our fury. So either way, great look. So
not mad at it at all. Not mad at it at all. I mean, a side of me wants to say, don't make him feel that special. You know what I mean? A side of me wants to say that, but that's the petty side of me, Jason. That's the petty side. The other side of me is like, you're 100% right. That'll be a big game. You know, a lot of people will be watching. The Vikings will be both teams will be looking to get a dub and prove a point. So I can see that. I can see that being a game. I could see that being a game. But again, petty artists. You get the regular jerseys. You're nothing special. You're nothing special, man. You know, it is what it is, though. I know we got to wrap up pretty soon. We got to touch on these Wolves just a touch.
Yes, we do.
We haven't been able to touch. And go ahead, transition. I know I don't want to mess up the host's transition, but I just had to throw it out there, man.
What are you talking about? That was perfect. I can't do it any better than that. I didn't really have one ready to go. I didn't even know if we were going to fit in any Timberwolves talk. But yes, Artis and I have been locked in with the Timberwolves all season long. We haven't really had an opportunity yet to give our opinion or comments about the Western Conference Finals went. Obviously not the way that we would have hoped. And I mean that really not the way we would have hoped. I don't think many Wolves fans envisioned that the team was going to lose in 5 games to the Dallas Mavericks. Artis, I'll start with this really quick. I mean, the word embarrassment isn't probably appropriate in this case because you didn't get swept, but what word would you use to describe losing in 5 games? And yeah, how would you describe it ultimately?
Losing in 5 games is not embarrassing. Game 5 was embarrassing, though. Yeah. Like, you came out there, you got the W, you extended it, gave people a little hope, and then came out in game 5 and you look up and they're down 30, 40 points at the blink of an eye. I mean, that was outrageous. Now, I do put some decent amount of stock, well, a lot of stock, because I know it should be true. I know it is true, you know, and what Anthony Edwards said along with KG, them just not being, you know, physically ready to make that type of playoff run. You know, they're not used to playing that deep into a season. So you understand that everybody has to make that adjustment. But man, 30, 40 points. And the hardest part about it, you know, throughout that series, man, it's just a hard pill to swallow because, you know, we're getting ready to watch them tonight, the Mavs again. And it's like, you had a Jaden game. You had a Nas Reed game. You had a few Mike Conley games. And, you know, in those games, Ant and Cat just wasn't available. It just didn't show up. And then the moment both of those guys show up, nobody else shows up. Anthony Edwards said it, man. At no point in this series were they on one accord, and that was apparent. They just weren't ready for the moment. I think, you know, and I'll throw this back to you really quick. I think that they have to make a move for some type of ball handler, some type of shot creator to play alongside with Anthony Edwards. You know, you look at the Celtics and the Mavs, you know, you have Kyrie and Luka, you have JT and Jaylen Brown, and Drew Holiday and Derek White. You got multiple over there, right? But they need another guy on the perimeter that can shot create and get a bucket on their own. They just do. Mike Conley's a little older. I think you might have to move him to the bench to preserve him. But DeJounte Murray, been saying this for years, Jason, since I started at SKOR North.
Literally.
The first name I said the Wolves should go get, DeJounte Murray. And it's crazy how I still feel the same way. Like, do what you need to do to get DeJounte Murray. I think you'll be, you know, if you have to get rid of Cat, it might be a tough call. But if you can hold on to Cat, that will be sick. Absolutely sick. But that's how I feel about the Timberwolves right now, Jason.
Yeah, I would love them to address the future of the point guard position, either in the draft, free agency, if possible. Now, we need to get this ownership situation figured out before we can even know what we're going to be doing in free agency. We need to know who's going to be owning the team, if they are willing to pay the luxury tax or not. That is the biggest hold up in anything. And until that stuff gets resolved, I don't know like how much reckless speculation we can put into any like free agents for the Timberwolves. Now, we did have the news drop today that Michael Bloomberg, one of the richest men in the world, former New York City mayor, is entering the ownership agreements with Lori and A-Rod. And if you're talking about financial backing, I mean, Bloomberg is that baby. I don't want to say this might be the final nail in the coffin for Glenn Taylor's ownership of the Minnesota Timberwolves, but I just don't know. With a guy like Bloomberg backing you, I just don't know how ultimately Glenn Taylor's going to have his hands on this team. I wonder if there's going to be another offer made potentially to Glenn Taylor, something that he couldn't possibly refuse. But maybe also Glenn's just kind of getting sick of this litigation, man. He's getting old. I don't think he wants to be dealing with this at his age. You know what I mean? So he might just want to get to retirement and get on with his life, maybe. But obviously he probably wants to set up several generations to come as well. So he doesn't want to get screwed either. But yeah, I'm with you. There are some needs that need to be addressed with this team. The luxury tax is hanging over us. It may force a trade no matter what. We have to potentially be prepared that this team is going to look different next season, no matter what. This luxury tax is no joke. I mean, even the Warriors flirted with not paying the luxury tax several times during their championship runs, during their dynasty. And so you may have to potentially say goodbye to a guy like Karl Anthony Towns, Jaden McDaniels, hate to even say it, Naz Reid, although I think the marketability of Naz Reid with the towels and the tattoos and the buses putting his name on their signs, you're not trading Naz Reid, no way, no how. He is way, way too popular of a player to move on. No, you cannot move on from Naz Reid, and if they don't do another towel night next season, I think a lot of fans will be disappointed. So I think it really is down to those two guys, Jaden and Kat, and frankly, I mean, yeah, sure, there were a lot of offensive issues maybe with Jaden that we can point at during the season, but man, he has had some really efficient playoff games that made me really encouraged about what Jaden McDaniels can do in several more postseason runs potentially for the Timberwolves to come. But Karl Anthony Towns got benched again, man, and several times in these playoff series. Game 2, he's benched with like 8 minutes left in that game. It's just absolutely, it's ridiculous, and it's totally uncalled for, and this is kind of an issue that we've had with Karl Anthony Towns throughout his entire career. So if I'm sitting here right now, who's the odd man out of the Timberwolves? Who's the most likely guy that is going to get traded? It is Karl Anthony Towns. Trade value is probably higher than it's ever been before, but frankly, I don't know if he is ultimately a piece that will get us to a championship because of just the way he implodes sometimes and his foul trouble and getting benched. It's just, I don't know. Anyway, it's a conversation that we will probably talk extensively throughout the offseason. Once the draft hits, once free agency opens up, obviously there's a whole lot going on with the Minnesota Timberwolves. Tim Conley also restructured his contract, so he's going to be back at least through next season. His opt-out was just moved one season down the road, so this might be something we have to deal with Tim Conley. His future with the Timberwolves may be down the road, but I think he was given like $15 million or something, which is very lucrative when it comes to president of basketball operations salaries. But yeah, point guards, maybe like a pure power forward. I don't know. If Robert Covington and Taurean Prince want to have reunions with the Minnesota Timberwolves, I'm not opposed to that. Maybe even Malik Beasley if you're looking for three-point shooting. I don't know. I don't know if we want to go there. But at the same time, Artis, this was a successful season for the Timberwolves. This is the brightest their present has ever been, and also their future has ever been. The only time it's ever rivaled this was back in 2015 when we drafted Kat and we had Andrew Wiggins and Zach LaVine. We really did think that team was going to be a plenty of playoff contender. It kind of blew up in our faces, but now we've got this, and yes, it's disappointing. Disappointment is the right word in terms of losing 5 games to the Mavericks, but ultimately, the Wolves fans, this might be the best season that we just had in franchise history, and also the future is set up better than it ever has before here in town, with Anthony Edwards specifically.
The thought of trading Naz Reid. Oh, no.
I know that.
No. That name shouldn't be brought up in any conversation whatsoever unless it's like, all right, we're going to trade you to, I don't know, we got to get a super duper star, in exchange for Naz Reid. No way. I'd have to get like Luka or Jokic or like it have to be crazy. I know for a fact that's just not going to happen. So yeah, I agree with pretty much everything you just said. I know there are some fans looking at me right now like, yeah, I told you we care about the ownership situation. My bad. Now I get it. Oh, man. Yeah, well, as soon as you said that, I'm like, oh, man. Yeah, so, yeah, that makes a ton of sense. But what's the guy's name again that just got involved?
Michael Bloomberg. Yeah, that's a big deal.
That's hey, I'm hoping, like you said, he can seal the deal. We can get this ball rolling. The Wolves are right there, man, looking to make a push next season. And is already like, we'll be back. So this team is good enough, obviously, to get to the conference finals. Good enough to extend it to 5 games. You know, a couple plays here and there. That's a series. They just couldn't close. You bring in a guy that can close, defend, you know, make some shots from the outside. I think you right there. So I'm not mad at where they sit right now.
No, it's great. Like, sure, I'm a little still bitter right now. I need time to heal this wound a little bit. Like, I'm definitely not rooting for the Mavs in these finals. I'm rooting for the Celtics. I won't stun about that. But let's get through the offseason, and once October rolls around, I'll be right there hyped up about the Timberwolves. Once again, I'll be singing their praises, and I'll be excited to see Anthony Edwards, just throw down crazy dunks once again. Anyway, that's got to wrap up things here on the SKOR North Taxi Squad. I got to get going to jump on the NBA Finals Game 1 on 1500 ESPN, so we got to wrap things up a little bit quicker than normal. Artis, any final words before we send things off to our listeners?
Yes, I believe that from a NFL and an NBA combination, like in different cities, I think that Minnesota has one of the brightest futures of all of any team in the country. I really do. When you have Justin Jefferson and Addison and all of the pieces, that the Vikings have on offense, a solid defense, when you look at the fact that Edwards plays for the Minnesota Timberwolves, the future is extremely bright for both teams, man. You love to see it. This is a great time to be a Minnesota sports fan. I will say that.
Just get us to a freaking championship round, please. One of these years. We got close this year, but as Minnesotans always say, there's always next year. My final words are, thank goodness Royce Lewis is back. He's hit 2 home runs now in 2 games in his return with the Minnesota Twins. Unfortunately, the Twins weren't able to win against the New York Yankees. Their generational struggles continue, but literally, who I believe is the face of the Twins organization is now back playing games, and he needs to stay healthy because that bat is absolutely electric. It literally, no rust on the guy whatsoever. He just seems to jump right into lineups and have no problem just going right in there and raking baseballs. Royce Lewis, thank you so much for coming back, and thank you for just hitting so many home runs. You're so awesome. Now, please, stay healthy. This is a decent Twins team. I'd like it to stay that way. You are a key part in making sure that stays the case. Anyway, that's going to have to wrap up Taxi Squad for the week. Thank you so much for watching and listening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. My name is Jason Stormer. That is Artis Woods, and we will catch you on the next time on the program. And until then, you take care now. Bye-bye.